Un cordiale saluto da Riccardo Schirru e diamo il benvenuto quest'oggi negli studi del Globo TV al nostro gradito ospite, il ministro federale dell'immigrazione, la cittadinanza e gli affari multiculturali, Andrew Giles. Mr. Giles, welcome to il Globo TV.
Thanks very much, Riccardo. Great to be with you.
Mr. Giles, Australian immigration population is expected to have grown by more than 700,000 between 2022 and the 2024 financial year. A faster than expected return to international student and working holidaymakers following the reopening of borders is one of the factors, the key factor of this hike. Big number indeed. Can the country sustain such numbers?
Well, what we need to do is two things, Riccardo. Firstly, we do need to catch up after the pandemic. We need to reconnect people. Australians, we're a majority migrant nation, so we know the pause in the pandemic has meant that many people have been separated from family for too long. We also know that there are critical industries that require skills. Our health sector in particular, but so many areas of our economy, as well as, of course, students, as you've spoken about. But what we are determined to do as a government is to move back to a more planned approach to our migration system, built around pathways to permanency. The migration system that, frankly, so many Italian Australians experienced when they first came to this country in the 50s and the 60s, where coming here was about a pathway to permanency where you could make a life.
Will provide pathways to permanent residency for up to 2.1 million people on temporary visa holders, and introduce a new temporary skill mobility visa that will move away from a single employer's sponsorship to a model that allows for mobility between approved employers. Is that the case?
We're still working on our response to the migration review, but one of the concerns that we've seen, or two of the concerns, the first one is too many people have been what we would say permanently temporary in Australia, without the opportunity to lay down roots, to start a business, to start a family, to buy a house. That's something we want to fix. Now, of course, not everyone who comes here will go on to become a permanent resident and a citizen, but we've found that our current system isn't working. It isn't working for individuals, it's putting them under stress, and it isn't working for our country or our economy. On that second issue, I guess what we're trying to do is to look at what we're really needing in terms of temporary skill shortages. And it seems to us that the current system isn't working. We're not attracting the right talent in the right places under the right conditions. So we're determined to fix that.
The migration, the increase in migration means also that they all need a house. Is there any synergy between your department, the housing department, and so on to actually?
This is such a great question. One of the things that we have failed to do as a country, particularly over the last decade, is frankly have the sort of planned approach to migration that I started talking about earlier, because we've relied so much on the temporary demand-driven program in place of the permanent program, which is capped in the budget every year at the moment. And the other thing we haven't done is interlocked the migration program and migration planning into the work of other government departments. This is particularly critical in terms of the states and territories. And I'm so pleased that every state and territory leader and the Prime Minister agreed at National Cabinet in August to focus on reversing that trend, to make sure that what's happening in the states and territories around housing, around the infrastructure that supports a life, whether it's transport and schools, are better linked to how we manage the migration program.
And talking about division, the voice, the government keeps saying that there is a lot of confusion and disinformation. This is a great opportunity to talk with you directly about this issue. Edition after edition, we try to explain to our reader what's happening, what is the referendum, why, etc., etc. But a structured campaign will definitely help the cause that you are promoting on such an important historic issue, an occasion for this country,
yes.
Definitely.
Well, I think this is a very important occasion for the country, and it's very important that every Australian engages in this conversation on their terms. And I know for many people, they will look to Il Globo as a trusted source of advice and information, more so than the views of any political leader. That's something that I recognise, and one of the reasons why it's so important to be talking with you today. But for me, it is a simple question. That many try to make it complicated. It's about two things, this referendum that we'll all vote on the 14th of October. The first proposition is whether we recognise the fact that this country has a history that goes back 65,000 years, not a little over 200. Recognition of our first people in our constitution. The second thing is for that recognition to be given the form that First Nations people have asked for, which is an advisory body to be recognised in the constitution to the parliament and to the government, so that decisions can be made in respect of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people informed by their thinking in a representative sense, which hasn't happened in the past. And I do like to think about this as a reference back to what happened in 1973, when we recognised as a migrant country, we are a multicultural country, and through that, people's different backgrounds, people's different experiences and understandings needed to be recognised in how they deal with government. I think that has been a great success story of modern Australia, the way that we've built this multicultural infrastructure which enables different viewpoints, different understandings to be brought into the political conversation and the policy conversation. For me, the voice is another way of doing that, but for our Aboriginal people.
The government has arrived halfway, at the halfway mark, more or less. Did you see this 1.5 year of government?
Well, I think I can say on behalf of all of my colleagues that we don't take the privilege of government for granted. Every day is an opportunity to work and to work harder to deliver the sort of future that our communities deserve. We do feel that there was nearly a decade that was wasted economically and wasted in terms of developing us as a nation. So every day I'm excited to get to work in my responsibilities to try and do better for the Australian community. I know that's the example the Prime Minister sets, working hard, but also ensuring that in the work that we do, we are bringing people together. I spoke earlier, you asked me some good questions about that Scanlon research. And part of our great challenge in any democracy is to ensure that people feel that they belong, feel that they have a real say in their life and the life and future of their communities. That work on bringing people together is incredibly important to Mr Albanese and incredibly important to me. So every day I look at as another opportunity to make a difference in people's lives and to make a difference in the country. That's how I'd like to continue to go about my work right up to the next election, and I hope beyond it.
Mr. Giles, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Grazie mille.
Grazie a lei. Abbiamo parlato con il Ministro dell'Immigrazione, la cittadinanza e il multiculturalismo, Andrew Giles. Grazie per l'ascolto.